In the cradle of civilization, long before Homer, long before the epics of India, and more than 1,500 years before the birth of the Greek alphabet, there lived a woman whose words would echo across millennia. Her name was Enheduanna, a princess, a priestess, a poet, and the first known author in all of recorded human history. Her writings survived the fall of empires, the erosion of kingdoms, and the shifting sands of 4,500 years. They speak to us today with stunning clarity of devotion, exile, rage, triumph, and the power of the written word itself. This is her story, a story of politics, religion, literature, and the birth of authorship. To understand Enheduanna, we must first step back into the world she inhabited, ancient Sumer, around 2300 BC. This was a landscape of mud-brick cities, towering ziggurats, and a people who pioneered some of humanity's earliest breakthroughs: writing, mathematics, astronomy, and organized religion. The city of Ur, then ruled by the Akkadian Empire, was one of the greatest urban centers of its day. A hive of priests, merchants, builders, farmers, a place where the gods were woven into every part of life. And at the very heart of Ur stood the ziggurat of Nanna, the moon god, a massive, stepped temple rising above the plain, the spiritual and political center of the city. This is where Enheduanna lived. This is where she wrote. This is where she became a legend. Enheduanna's father was Sargon of Akkad, founder of the first great empire in recorded history. To unify the Sumerian city-states under Akkadian rule, Sargon used not only armies, but ideology. He appointed his daughter Enheduanna the High Priestess of Nanna, one of the most powerful religious roles in Sumer. This was no ceremonial position. The High Priestess controlled temple lands, wealth, rituals, and political influence. Her Sumerian title, En, meant High Priestess. Enheduanna means ornament of heaven. Together, Enheduanna, the High Priestess, the ornament of heaven. She was both a symbol of unity between Sumer and Akkad, and a spiritual leader whose voice carried divine authority. But she would become far more than a political appointee. What separates Enheduanna from all who came before her is astonishingly simple. She signed her name. Her surviving works, written in cuneiform on clay tablets, include 1. The Exaltation of Inanna, Ni Misare, a deeply personal, emotional poem describing her exile, despair, and ultimate restoration. 2. The Sumerian Temple Hymns, a collection of 42 hymns to temples across Sumer, effectively the first literary anthology. 3. Hymns to the goddess Inanna, praising the goddess of love, war, and transformation. These texts are not anonymous. They explicitly state, I, Enheduanna, composed this. For the first time in human history, we hear a person say, I wrote this. These are my words, my experience, my voice. She becomes not merely a scribe, but an author in the modern sense. Her writing reveals remarkable literary sophistication, metaphor, emotional introspection, structure, rhythm, and a personal point of view. She writes of gratitude, of terror, of crisis, of faith, of identity. She writes as a human being, not simply as a functionary recording offerings or taxes. This is the birth of literature as we know it. Enheduanna's life was not peaceful. A political uprising led by a rebel leader named Lugalain violently expelled her from the temple. In the Exaltation of Inanna, she recounts it in vivid language. He made me walk a path of thorns. He stripped me of my crown. My sweet mouth became dust. Cast out, isolated, and fearing for her life, she turned to her patron goddess, Inanna. Her writing is raw, a direct window into her emotions. I, who once sat in the holy place, am cast to the winds. I no longer know my own light, but the poem shifts. It becomes a prayer, then a demand, and finally, a declaration of victory. She writes that Inanna restored her to power, her enemies defeated, her authority renewed. Whether this is literal or poetic, we may never know. But we know this. She survived. She returned. and she immortalized the experience in writing. Enheduanna's most recurring subject was Inanna, goddess of love, war, storms, transformation, and political power. Inanna was not a gentle figure. She was fierce, unpredictable, radiant, and terrifying. Enheduanna wrote of her, "Inanna, your light is fierce and radiant. Your storms wash away kings. Your justice is a roaring wind." Through her poetry, she elevated Inanna into one of the most important deities of the ancient world. Some scholars believe Enheduanna helped shape the later concept of powerful goddesses across cultures, even influencing the imagery of Ishtar, Astarte, and perhaps Athena. Her writing transformed religious thought for centuries. Enheduanna lived more than 4,300 years ago, and yet her influence is still felt today. She is the first known individual author in history. Her writings are some of the earliest expressions of personal narrative. Her hymns influenced Mesopotamian religion for centuries. Her poetic voice shaped the development of later literature. Her clay tablets were copied and recopied for 500 years. Her name was remembered long after empires vanished. And when archaeologists excavated UR in the 1920s, they found a disc bearing her image, a solemn profile of a woman standing before a ritual offering. A woman who changed the world with her words. Today, scholars call her the first author, the first poet, the first theologian, the first woman whose internal life we can hear across time. Enheduanna lived at the dawn of civilization, but her words carry a modern soul. She wrote of fear, of power, of faith, of identity, of survival. And through her, we learn that even at the very beginning of human writing, we were already telling stories about ourselves. Enheduanna stands as a reminder that the human voice, especially a woman's voice, can transcend kingdoms, centuries, and even the fall of civilizations. Her legacy endures not in stone, but in words. And words, once written, never truly die. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this deep historical documentary, don't forget to like, subscribe, and explore more journeys into the ancient world.